A very good afternoon, everybody. Professor Nagesh Kumar, Director ISID, Professor KJ Joseph, Secretary General Globalics, Professor Lakhvinder Singh, dear participants, a very warm welcome to this now closing ceremony of three very exciting days of Indialics Conference 2022. I'll be lying if I don't say that I'm feeling a bit emotional because it was really a wonderful experience of the last 3 days. And Mr. Joseph will be the chair for today's session. So I request sir to please take over from here and as we proceed with the closing ceremony. Thank you, everybody, for joining today.
Thank you, Professor Ruchi. Wonder would have been had you been not emotional. I think the kind of hard work that you have invested and the kind of dividend that you richly deserve that you and Lakwinder, the returns to your effort is incredible. So we are here to majorly to listen from Professor Nagesh Kumar. But before that, I think let me request Professor Lakwinder Singh to kind of take a few minutes and set the context for the lecture by briefly summarizing what happened during the last 2 days, 3 days. Over to you, Professor Lakwinder.
Thank you very much, Professor KJ Joseph. Honorable Chief Guest, Professor Nagesh Kumar, who is currently Director, Institute for Industrial Development, New Delhi. Professor KJ Joseph, Director Gift and Secretary General of Globalics. Professor Ruchi Sharma, IIT Indore. Dear delegates, scholars, ladies and gentlemen, first of all, I would like to say good afternoon and welcome you all in this Indialics 2022 conference. All good things which begins are ultimately have to end. So this is a closing session in which we would like to listen to one of the very highly rated economists who has done a lot of work, and globally he has been recognized on the issue of innovations. And we are honored really to have you with us today to speak in the valedictory session. One of the very important aspects which we all are discussing and perhaps the India is facing. So when we try to look into that, India has completed 70 years of development process, yet keeping a lot of lofty goals before it and marching towards a developed economy which is expected to happen. So I think that when we have count the development processes of the Indian economy, then you'll find that the innovation system, how it has worked in the historical past, what are its achievements, what are the fundamental flaws which we have witnessed, and then what will be the way forward. So keeping this in view, we have organized 3 days conference, and this is the last session of the 3 days conference. We had 11 technical sessions where select 36 papers have been presented by the scholars who have done very intensive research work. And those technical papers are highly valued for highly valued, and each paper has been discussed by the discussant, as well as floor has participated a lot. But one of the very important other aspect of the conference happened to be that we had, apart from the inaugural session, and now we are going to have the valedictory session, we had a wonderful keynote address from Professor Conley of Seoul National University in Korea. Now, what he has done is that he has talked about that how India is placed vis-a-vis other countries of the world which are in the process of catching up. So he has provided us food for thought that need to be discussed, researched in the coming years, and scholars must engage themselves in that particular area of research. Apart from that, the scholars who have delivered special lectures, they have also focused on the historical, current, and future aspects of the innovation system, India vis-a-vis other countries of the world. But more importantly, we had a panel plenary sessions where you'll find that one or two people, two or three people have participated in presenting some of the ideas which they have discovered over the long period of time, and those has been debated a lot. So in UNISM, we have had a combination of special lectures, plenary sessions where panel has been there, and then we have also technical sessions. Now here, one of the very important feature of the conference, which I liked it very much. Yesterday we started around this time, 3:30, and end up at 6 plus on a panel on Madhya Pradesh. Now that panel has raised very interesting questions, that where Madhya Pradesh is today, how it is performing, and what are the weaknesses of Madhya Pradesh, and how those weaknesses need to be corrected by the policymakers. So I think that one of the very important aspect which has been talked about was that if we, and Professor Nagesh Kumar, you are very well aware that the India has started planning process in the 50s, and the lofty goal was transformation of the economy. But when we reached to the end of the mid 80s, there was a lot of debate which has occurred that industrialization in India is high cost, less competitive, and let us expose it to the global competitiveness, and then you'll find that we will reap all the possible problems. We will have solve all the possible problems which we have been witnessing. So in the last 30 years period of time, you will find that the fundamental problems which we have faced for a long period of time, one was that the industrial productivity remained lower than the productivity of the services sector of the economy. This is when state was dominating, this was the feature. When the liberalized, privatized, globalized economy was dominating, this was the feature. So this is the studies done by various economists in the world. Professor Joseph has added another puzzle, that is the productivity in India in the post-liberalization period, as stated, compared to China, is higher than China, and you will find that that is also a puzzle, because China is booming in industrialization, but India is not. So you will find that the another very important problem where you have worked a lot, that was balance of payment, especially in the balance of trade side, where you'll find that we are importing more and exporting less. So in this mismatch, which has disturbed a lot over a long period of time, but that problem has not been solved. So you'll find that another very important problem is that large proportion of the workforce is living in the countryside, but you'll find that the income is generated in the urban areas of India. That is a big contradiction where you'll find that we have poverty, inequality, non-skilled people, which you cannot be transformed in the present form to the modern economic activities. So I think that the long period development still facing the similar kind of problems which we have begun in the post-independence period. But you will find that instead of looking into seriously to solving those problems and where we have gone wrong, you will find policy process is perpetuating what is happening in a more rigorous manner. You will find that without recounting where we have gone wrong and how we have to correct those kind of things. And the development process till date has not met the aspirations of the people living in the country, because they compare a big country like highly populated big country like China and East Asian countries. If they can transform the economy in the last 30 years period of time, why India has not done it? So since you are at the center of stage of activities of especially heading an institute which talks about industrialization, which nobody nowadays talks about. And I think these are the fundamental questions which perhaps today we will not solve, but we have to solve those questions. And you have been already proposed to have an association of the industrial economists. You wanted to gather, whatever is left on industrialization, because people even fear to talk about industrialization nowadays. So in India, neither policymakers nor people who are engaged in research is interested in that. And I think Indialics is struggling to bring people on board to talk about on the important issues which perhaps Indian economy is facing, and should talk about on those. And we expect that you are not only going to be the speaker here, but I think you are part of the Indialics, and you should be able to support Indialics future activities and set the tone of agenda which country and Indialics should work on it, and try to focus as a center stage or mainstream kind of policy rather than as a sidestep kind of people which we seems to be looking like. So thank you very much for giving us your time, and I hope you will reflect on the issues which you think are very important. But Indialics is facing such kind of questions, and we have discussed 3 long day discussions. Those have been very fruitful, encouraging, and I think people are very receptive. And I think that from this, we will think about the kind of outcome which can come. Perhaps Professor Ruchi, who is very courageously taking these kind of steps to organize such a long conference, 3 days conference on online conference. And I think that she is able to get huge amount of response. And I'm really grateful to her and Professor Joseph, who is a spirit behind all these kind of activities. And the people those who have participated, once again, I welcome, and thank you very much for listening to me. Thank you.
You are muted.
Thank you, Professor Lakwinder, for that very warm welcome, which is very appropriate for the occasion. Respected Professor Nagesh Kumar, honorable guest of the day. My job is a very pleasant one, because introducing someone is always a pleasant job. It becomes doubly pleasant when you are given an opportunity to introduce someone with whom you have great appreciation because you had an opportunity to work and benefit and learn from him. I must openly saying that in my academic life, I had 2 years of close association working closely with Professor Nagesh Kumar. That turned out to be the most exciting, rewarding learning experience in my life. And I think if I could get benefit from Professor Nagesh Kumar, I would say anyone for that matter. Now, I think in a Google world or in the world of Siri, introducing someone is actually superfluous for these young smart guys who are around us. So I know that, if I am to introduce Professor Nagesh Kumar, whom I think the doyen from India in certain areas, selected areas, like say, for example, on research on Indian industry, international competitiveness, technology, or say for that matter, foreign direct investment, the pioneer in that sense of the term, on regional economic cooperation, wherein he has, I think he was in India, ASEAN integration, BIMSTEC EC, IPSA, BRICS, and in fact, he himself ventured to create, you remember, or JASIC, this is a heroic attempt. Japan, ASEAN, China, and Korea. That's a great attempt, and by the time he left, then he has he's now currently the Director General of ISID, the only institute in the country, perhaps. Professor Goyal started with the studies on industrial development, ISID, Industrial Institute for Studies in Industrial Development, and as Lakwinder rightly said, we aimed at manufacturing and gained in services. Why? I think this is an important issue that we have to deliberate. And this lack of industrialization is perhaps at the root of all our inequality and etc. etc. And Professor Nagesh Kumar, prior to heading this illustrious organization, he had a kind of a professional trajectory which is an envy of anyone. Prior to that, some 11 years he was holding very important strategic positions in UNESCO. That included what is called the head of the director of the macroeconomic policy and development division, director of the social development division, and UNESCO and the South and Southwest Asia director general, and South Commission for Asia and Pacific. Very important and highly topical issues which he has been handling. And he is also the visiting what is called the non-resident senior fellow in Boston in Boston University, and he was his other. There are so many other positions which I have to quote. So, for example, when I'm talking about, I remember him as his pioneering work that led to the first Exim Bank Award, Japanese Government Award, and so many awards which has come to his way. And today, there's none who has published so much on these related issues. 18 books, over 125 highly cited articles with over 8,000 citations. And Professor Nagesh Kumar, you are actually an inspiration for all of us. And I'm so happy that you have kindly, I know that you have a busy schedule, notwithstanding the busy schedule, you have honored our invitation. That itself was a great matter of celebration for us. And with this, I would like to invite you, not only because so far you didn't get a chance to associate with Indialics, and this is also an advance invitation to you for the next Globalix International Conference, which Indialics and Globalix is going to be done together in Trivandrum in October, and which has been extended to you, and you will be especially invited for me on that, which is with that. I request you to kindly share your reflections as the plenary talk. Over to you, Professor Nagesh.
Thank you, Professor Joseph, Professor Lakwinder Singh, Professor Ruchi Sharma, and all the very distinguished participants of this Indialics conference. I'm very happy and delighted to be with you this afternoon and share some thoughts. I think, this organization, Indialics, is doing a great job of pulling together young scholars and researchers on innovation related matters, which is the need of the hour for India. If we are to really become second or third largest economy of the world in the next 25 years, we can't do that without innovation and attention being paid to that. And so I think by promoting research on these matters, these issues, you are doing great job, and you have chosen very timely theme for this conference, India's innovation system at 75, achievements, limitations, and the way forward. So I decided to focus on or reflect on the theme itself. Although Professor Lakhvinder Singh was, sort of hinting or pushing or nudging me to speak on industrialization, which is actually what I did yesterday at Indira Gandhi Institute for Development Research, IGIDR. They are actually, these days, they are also holding their biennial development conference. And I was a keynote speaker yesterday. So I spoke there on industrial transformation of India. And Kaushik Basu and Ashima Goyal and Mahendra Dev and Nachne, all of these people were there. And so I got a lot of good feedback. But keeping in mind your theme, which is very timely indeed, I thought of speaking or reflecting on the innovation story of India. Now, and it's also helpful in a way because I am trying to put together some thoughts on innovation in India, which might take the shape of a longish paper or a book. So it helped me to reflect a little bit. Now, we sometimes talk about our ancient legacy or ancient wisdom, which was highly original. The In mathematics, astronomy, metallurgy, textiles, we have some original contributions in the ancient times. But in the modern India, which is after becoming independent in 1947, what have we achieved and what do we have to show to the world? One would say not very much. We are a highly technologically dependent nation. And so, but I think the record is much better than that. And if we were to go through some of the numbers, I mean, of course, in the Global Innovation Index, recently one noticed that in 5-7 years, we have jumped 40 places to occupy 40th rank or 41st rank in the Global Innovation Index. Last year, UNCTAD came up with this technology and economy report, and it was focused on Industry 4.0, and it said that India was punching above its weight in the sense that we were disproportionately occupying a high level or rank in the preparedness for IR 4.0 or frontier technologies. We were the only low middle income country in the top 30. So there are some encouraging assessments, but these encouraging assessments could be actually very remarkable considering the fact that we are devoting only 0.7% or little less than of our GDP on R&D, which is very low, and we need to do something about it. So considering that such a little, spending, we are doing quite well. So one could take a little bit of, encouragement from that. Whatever indicator you look at, the number of patents filed by Indians, non-residents, Indians has gone up very sharply in the past 5 years. The number of patents granted has also gone up very fast. But the essential question one should be asking is whether India's indigenous innovation system has made difference to the life of an average citizen. And when you begin to do that and look back in the 75 years, you find that there are a lot of things which we often forget, do not recognize, and give due credit to where it should be given to. So, for instance, we are today a food self-reliant nation. How did it happen? In 1960s, some of us, the ancient ones, like me or like Professor Joseph and Lakhvinder would certainly remember that in 1960s we were highly dependent upon imported food grain, and there were times when it would become like a famine kind of situation. Then, we tried to address that with the Green Revolution. What was actually done in Green Revolution was that we were provided some high-yielding variety seeds by CIMIT in Mexico, which is an institute of the Consultative Group on International Agriculture Research, CGIAR. Indian agricultural scientists led by Dr. Swaminathan and his colleagues worked on those imported germplasm, adapted it to India, rolled out this whole series of high-yielding seeds, and with the extension services done by Indian Agricultural Research System, we achieved food self-sufficiency in food grain. And so today we are proud of, becoming not only self-sufficient, but surplus in food grain. So this is one strong, very visible outcome of our national innovation system. Similarly, other aspects of food, there is a white revolution. We were also dependent on imports of, milk, cream, butter, and all that from European Union. Today, we are the largest producer of milk in the world, and we are able to meet the protein requirements of young people through locally produced milk. So this white revolution was also a major innovation, and that happened in the country in last few decades. Similar story goes about the poultry revolution, the eggs and all that. Now, moving away from the food side, atomic energy. We needed to harness the atomic energy for peaceful uses, and no country was willing to give us the technology. We also wanted technology to use thorium rather than uranium, in which we are abundant. This is an abundant mineral. And so we built our own reactors that can use thorium and harness the fruits of nuclear or atomic energy in space. As a large country, highly dependent on monsoons and all that, we needed a system of remote sensing based on space. No country was willing to give us that technology, the cryogenic engines and all that, because these are dual use technologies, as they say. We developed our own cryogenic engines. We developed our own launch vehicles, PSLV. We became such a success that we are in the top 5 countries in space. And not only we launch our own satellites in space, but of many other countries. Some 30 countries use our launch vehicles. In defense, missiles, again, dual use technology. Nobody will want to give us the technology because of the Cold War, and we becoming part of the Russian club and or USSR, Soviet ally, and all that. We developed our own missiles of all types, surface to air to air, intercontinental ballistic missiles, BrahMos, whatnot. Going beyond missiles, we recently got this LCA developed indigenously, which has been now there are demands for some exports. Aircraft carrier, indigenously developed, launched. So several naval vessels have been built in India. So I think that side also there is something to show. In railways, we have this Vande Bharat trains, semi-high speed, all developed in India. So one can also talk about that. Sometime back, I mean, I'm talking of 1970s, 80s, and I think Dinesh knows this much better than I do. There was this issue of thermal power stations in India, having problems in using Indian coal, which had very high ash content. BHL developed technology with the fluidized bed converter or something, which was able to use Indian coal with high ash content very well. There was also C dot technology which developed switching systems for telecommunication. So I think there are many, many, many innovations which came out of Indian national innovation system. But coming to the private sector, what is there to show? I think pharma story is very well known. The generic pharmaceutical industry, where Indian companies developed alternative processes of known, pharmaceutical compounds to build more affordable, generic drugs. And not only for India, but India became a pharmacy of the developing world. And recently, this kind of thing was repeated for vaccines, where we produce vaccines for not only India, but also for many countries in the world, and major success story. In automotives or automobiles or vehicles, we have number of companies developing new designs, new vehicles themselves. Tata Motors or Mahindras, they are rolling out constantly their own homegrown automotives or vehicles. Now that is being done in electric mobility. ICT software, where we are pioneers of outsourcing industry, and you may deride it calling it as a body shopping because there is a labor cost advantage, so companies are coming doing this outsourcing here. But if you look in little bit of depth, you will find that there are some major products coming out of India as well. For instance, Infosys developed Finacle, which is a financial institutions or banking software. And most of the banks in India, I am told, are dependent on that software. Tata Consultancy Services way back automated all these railway reservation systems. You remember the way we used to reserve or book our train tickets how automation has helped. This is so just few examples. So, and then there is a whole range of what is called as frugal innovations, and the jugaad, you may call it. So you know the ubiquitous electric three-wheeler built by some very informal innovators. Everywhere you see last mile connectivity. This is one of such examples, but there are many others, and I won't list except for saying the low cost ECG equipment, for instance, which can work with the paper and all that, battery operated refrigerator. So, some of the innovations which were good for our special requirements, our villages, rural areas which lack sophisticated infrastructure, sometimes electricity also. So, innovations that work in those situations. India is also attracting a lot of multinational companies to set up the global capability centers, the R&D centers dedicated to their own R&D, global R&D activities. And there are quite a large number of them have been set up in India. And then one should also talk about the latest or recent innovations in the digital space, including the Universal Payment Interface UPI, which is rated very highly globally. So in fintech, there are many such innovations made in India, and Aadhaar and direct benefit transfers, COVID management. So the whole India stack story is a great achievement. I think one can be proud of. And then this is startups coming up, which are doing cutting edge research on small problems, but making a difference and becoming successful and rated as unicorns. So I think while it is easy to dismiss India's national innovation system as something which hasn't been able to reduce India's technological dependence, it is more than that. We need to be a little bit more charitable about that. But of course, we need to do much better than what we have done so far. And one would, when one tries to look at why some of these successes that I listed became success and could not be more, I mean, more in number compared to these, I think one of the things which comes out as a common thread which made some of these successes as successes is that wherever we tried a mission mode, it tended to succeed. So whether it was space or atomic energy, it worked. So mission mode, where very clear target is given to the team, they tend to deliver. And so mission mode, clearly one was, this was one factor. Second was that strong leaders, wherever these strong leaders were present, we got extremely valuable results or fruitful results. And actually, if you look back, each of these major successes is linked to an individual. Atomic program with Bhabha, the space program with Sarabhai, missile program with APJ Abdul Kalam, and the Amul saga with the Korean, and so on and so forth. So strong leadership, of course, did help. The other thing which is, very visible out of all these successes is that most of our achievements are of adaptive nature, whether it is pharmaceuticals or whether it is, uh, adapting the thermal power technology to Indian coal, or whether it is adapting to the uh, thorium based nuclear reactors and all that. So most of our achievements have been of adaptations and not really very creative, absolutely genuine, new, original work. I think that is something which we are still looking for. A major innovation coming out of India, adopted globally, so that we get, really, acceptance as a major innovation-driven nation. And this is something which we should change in the next 25 years in this so-called Amrit Kal of India's independence, when we celebrate our independence centenary in 2047. We should be seen as a knowledge-driven economy, and we should be receiving accolades for some innovations which are completely coming out of India. The other factor which has driven our innovation system is the abundance of skilled manpower. And that was actually result of our investments in higher education institutions like IITs, IISc, and others. And they have really served India very well. In fact, the whole of the ICT outsourcing industry is built on this abundance of skilled manpower. And this is the same resource which is attracting multinational companies to come and set up the global capability centers. So, this abundance of skilled manpower is something which we need to also harness for this fourth industrial revolution. Fourth industrial revolution is a highly skill-based, and knowledge-based industrial revolution, and in the context of uh, the rapid aging. Actually, European countries have already become aged societies. Japan has become an aged society. Republic of Korea has become an aged society, and China is becoming very, fast an aging society. So, in the context of the fact that India still has a demographic dividend, or working age population's proportion in total population is still rising for next 15-20 years, India has an opportunity to become the talent capital of the world for the industry 4.0. So this is the point I'm making these days, but this will require a complete overhaul of our educational system. And this is something which can be done. So all we need is determination to change and make our educational system fit for purpose for the IR 4.0, and then it would be a very important achievement. The other factors that helped our national innovation system and whatever successes that we have made is this focus on affordability. Many of our innovations were driven by the fact that average purchasing power of Indians is low. We look for affordable solutions to our problems. And so innovators in India also focused on this. The jugaad or these informal innovators were always finding solutions which are leading to solutions of problems in a very affordable manner. And so affordability was one factor. But one thing which we have not managed to exploit like other countries, like US, where the public funded R&D in public funded institutions like NIH, National Institutes of Health, or the Pentagon laboratories, which do cutting edge innovations, or Apollo mission and all. So a lot of new technologies were developed, which percolated in the rest of the civilian R&D or innovation system, and were taken up further by the private sector for more development, more applications, and making a difference to the lives of ordinary citizens. Somehow that process has not happened much in India, in the sense that the defense establishments, atomic energy establishments, space establishments, they are sitting on a lot of knowledge, which somehow India's private sector or business houses have not been able to harness, leverage, and take it forward. So this is something we need to do. And the other thing which is very much desirable and has not happened is the innovative rivalry among companies, among business enterprises, among public sector companies. That has not happened except for one or two sectors like pharma or auto. This culture of innovation or innovative rivalry is what is very much needed in the country and needs to be promoted. So, where do we go from here for a more sort of technology driven future in the country, more innovation driven future or knowledge driven future of the country in the next 25 years? So what can we do to cultivate this innovation driven culture or innovation based rivalry among business enterprises? I think one of the things which could be done is to support innovation, not only through tax benefits or tax breaks that the government does, but also some funding of R&D in critical areas at least. So funding of business enterprises by government in some critical areas which have high potential of spillovers, which have high potential of making a difference to the lives of people. So this is something we should think about. All different major countries uh, do that. In fact, very large proportion of business enterprises R&D in United States is supported by the governments. Most of these vaccines, whether it is Pfizer or Moderna or whatever, came out, after the pandemic, were results of government funding. So the and so this is something we need to think about, because there is a issue of market failures in innovation. That is why the innovators are not able to fully uh, capture the gains of their innovations, because society benefits from them. There are spillovers and leakages. So we need to support R&D and tax advantages or tax breaks is one way which is being done, but more than that may be required to push them to do more R&D. If funds are available, they will try to get some support and pursue their ideas. The other thing is for rivalry, R&D based rivalry. I think starting some awards in different sectors of most innovative firms, most innovative ideas, most important innovation of the year, could encourage, could inspire all others, the fence sitters, among companies. So I think that is another thing that could be done. The other thing, in a country where most of the innovation is of adaptive, incremental nature, I think the patent system needs to be of a different type. So the one patent system that we have, that's fine, that can stay as it is. But we need to also add or create another layer of patent system, which is, second tier, which is sometimes called as utility models, and most of the East Asian countries, if you see Japan, Republic of Korea or China, they have a huge, following or huge numbers of utility models granted. These are limited duration, innovations which will not, sort of get qualified as in innovations or inventions under normal standard patents act, but nevertheless they are incremental innovations, and they are recognized by utility models or petty patents, and they get 3 to 5 years of protection, which is very good for a country like India, especially for MSMEs. They do a little bit of tinkering to the existing products and processes, and they get this utility model and registered or petty patent registered. They have 5 years of, some kind of protection. So it encourages them to do more of such things. So incremental innovations could be supported by utility models. Promoting startups, which is being done actually. I think startups are becoming important vehicles of decentralized innovations in the country, and they are picking up some small problems and trying to find solutions to that. So this is something we need to promote, in a very big manner. And so startup ecosystem, more we do, more we benefit from. And the other important area to which the startups and large companies need to be pushed for innovation is the green industrialization, the green transition of industry and other parts of the economy. So the finding new methods of producing green hydrogen, new methods of producing green steel, new methods of producing green fertilizers, and new storage solutions, batteries which are more affordable and last long, solar and wind power equipment becoming more affordable, more cheaper, fuel cells, so a whole range of new challenges are upon us, to which our adaptive incremental innovation machinery or capability should address their attention to. So this is something which, if it is done, not only that we will be the pioneers and beneficiaries of those technologies, but we will also achieve the net zero targets that India has taken globally. So, and these startups can also try to address some of the societal challenges in rural areas. A lot of need of a small incremental innovations that they have become known for, frugal engineering solutions. So these innovators should really address these challenges. And I think startups are the right vehicles for taking up this kind of innovations, the micro, decentralized innovations. So the startups are the, sort of right mechanism for doing that. And so my earlier point of, making or promoting startups, in a much vigorous manner, much more funding going to them, is very critical. So I would like to conclude, that this national innovation system of the last 75 years has produced many successes. It is not a story which should be just you know, uh, derided. And there are a number of big achievements which have made difference to our lives, which have fed us very well and made us, self-sufficient in a number of areas. There are many other innovations which are not so visible, yet they have made strategic, difference to the country, like in space or in atomic energy or in defense. And there are many others which have protected our health by providing affordable medicines, not only to Indians, but also to developing countries anywhere in the world. So, and there are many others, incremental, small changes to life by the startups and frugal innovators. But in this coming 25 years, I think we should aim high. These successes of the past gave us confidence that we can do much better, and we can also take advantage of our youthful population to, and also our advantage of successes in ICT and digital transformation to build a much bigger base of innovation driven economy, and which helps in enhancing India's place in international division of labor. I think that should be the objective of national innovation system, that it lifts the place of the country in the international division of labor. And then we can celebrate our centenary of India's independence with a much greater sense of pride than just in terms of being the third largest economy or second largest economy, which happens because of our large population base, but ability to distinguish the Indian economy from the others in terms of what we are able to do to the world through our, innovative ability. So I'll stop here. Thank you very much for this opportunity.
I think Professor Nagesh Kumar, you could not have been more perceptive, more constructive, and more futuristic, and in a sense, setting an agenda for younger scholars and network like ours to work with, while articulating the manner in which a country which was begging with the PL 480 in front of US transformed in a matter of 8 years by producing 215 million tons of food grains as early as in 71, becoming the largest producer of milk, eggs, and others, and our achievements in aerospace, nuclear energy, and particularly recently you are talking about the railways, in IT and software, and more importantly, our role in saving the lives of millions through the locally produced COVID vaccine. Indeed, thanks to the institutional architecture that was created over time and the substantial investment that we have made from based on the 1958 Science Policy Resolution and subsequently by all the governments systematically. I think you could not have been more articulate in putting all this in the right perspective. And your call for please don't get carried away by saying that you will be third largest economy by 2029 by overtaking Germany and Japan. But still we will be a lower middle income country or not even a middle income country by per capita terms. You rightly said it. But instead, you should you have made the case for, say, for example, more R&D. You are talking in terms of the startups. You are making even emulating the Japanese and the Southeast Asian countries, the utility model patenting system. I think you have really made very interesting insights on what India should be trying to aspire to become. I think you could not have been, as I said, more perceptive. Thank you very much. I think the floor should be open. I have some questions because coming from your own writings, for example, how these all great achievements led to an international competence of the type that we really loved. Where are our competence really lying in? You say it is your own studies say it is the low tech industries we are, and we are a country with what is called the democratic dividends. And are we harnessing that, or are we laying the foundations of a democratic disaster with the kind of unemployment? And how long we will be taking pride by saying that we are launching rockets and carrying the largest number of poor in the world? I would say more questions of this type, and which we have to also while being optimistic. And I would like to open the floor for questions. I have seen that we have stark problems, which we are all aware. I mean, there are also issues, because we have there's a reason to be proud of, indeed, for the last 75 years. There's no point in putting them under the carpet. But then there are some questions. Why? While South Korea and other countries managed to join the OECD country in a matter of 25 years, while China, a country which was lagging behind us, is able to sustain a growth rate at almost 9.8% for 40 years. Where is China where we are? And equally importantly, in the area of electronics, that South Korea and India had same level of electronics production. Where are we? How many of Indian brand names are seen outside the world? You travel all across the world. How many of Chinese brand name brands we see here? You have Samsung, Lenovo, all these. How many brands are seen there? So we have to be proud of ourselves. But this is what I would like to open the floor for the discussion. Thank you.
Ruchi, you can go ahead.
Thank you, sir. So
there are some priority for raising questions. Anyone, the lesser the number of gray hairs, more the first they will be served.
Or completely gray hair.
I don't have any gray hair.
Or completely gray hairs.
Okay.
The old and young are equal, no?
Yes. I think all are equal. Some are more equal. Youngsters are more equal.
So Dinesh is waiting for that. Ruchi first and then Dinesh.
Dinesh, I think maybe you are muted, Dr. Dinesh.
So shall I go ahead?
I said I have put my concern in the chat.
Okay.
No, but you have to speak out. You have to speak out.
Right.
Thank you.
Professor, you are on mute.
I think by that time, you, Ruchi, you can go ahead.
Ruchi, I think gender balance is very important.
So then, sir, thank you very much for actually, presenting, painting a picture of how India's innovation system has evolved and what has been its major success stories. And I think for young scholars, it is very important to see the positive aspects of also because you're always critiquing and you're trying to see what we did not do well. But I think to also understand what went well is also very important. And I think that 0.7% of GDP as a R&D expenditure is one number which haunts innovation scholars. Like, why is it that we have not been able to budge away from that? But on that count, I think one positive figure which we see nowadays is that instead of the 70-30% of expenditure being spent for government and private sector, we moved to 60-40, which we say that it's maybe, because of the dynamism which we have seen in the Indian industrial sector and private sector is coming forth. But of course, there are also, we find it extremely concentrated. So my question is more about your utility model proposal. And it's very actually heartening to see that this kind of a discussion has come to the policy maker almost a decade later. Like in 2011 also, there was a white paper which was circulated by DIPP, then DIPP at that time. And they have received all the feedback from various agencies, including academic institutions, because they had IPR chairs in different academic institutions. So we have also given our feedback. And there you see the feedback was essentially generally from major industrial houses and particularly the private sector, or if there were associations of the foreign companies. There you find that they were talking that it may not be very beneficial for the companies. It will be easy for the Indian innovators to imitate. And I think that was one of the major reasons which held back the decision at that point of a time. So my question is, like, at this stage, what is it that we see going right for our Indian policymaker that kind of a policy measure can be supported? Clearly, we would have to deal with the TRIPS related, compliance related requirements. But if we manage to do that, so what is it that we see positively going in that direction that we will see that kind of a response from policymakers? Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, Ruchi. That is a very, very relevant question, which, yeah.
You want to take some more questions?
Yeah, I think we'll take a few more questions, then we can, so that, otherwise each one, because maybe related questions coming, you can bring them together and reflect upon.
No, I think it's interesting to listen to Professor Nagesh Kumar. My question is related to that today India has largest number of billionaires and industrial houses, and what kind of innovations are coming from them, and why you will find that they are indulging in the kind of rent-seeking behavior, and if so, that how that can be regulated to make them more innovative, rather than you will find that public sector is pumping in money again in for R&D to be conducted by them as well. So what is the rationale? Another important issue is that even if we had a green revolution and other white revolutions, but malnutrition, stunting, which is, I think, not even comparable with the African countries. How innovations for them is important, and what kind of innovations are required to be, done for them, and why India is lagging, not doing such kind of things. Thank you.
We have a Dinesh. What will happen to people next 5 years is more important. Okay, now, okay. There is Rashmi Ranjan. Rashmi, why do you want me to read out, or rather, can you, because you have made a lot of remarks, focus on sustainable development goals and public health and nutrition is very important in the coming days. Rashmi, do you want me to read or you want to? Why don't you come forward and introduce yourself? Rashmi, here. Rashmi has some questions and left, I suppose. Not questions, some adding on to your points, basically. Fostering culture of integrity, inclusion, and innovation. And in fact, driverless car is also an important innovation in coming days. Circular economy is the new way of creating shared value and promoting inclusive and sustainable development. Rashmi adds, focus on products, process, and systems in 3 dimensions of environmental, economic, and social. And adding again, adapting to green technology, which you already said. And most of these things we are basically supporting many of your perspective, which is said. And Vaishali Silkari would like to say that thank you, sir. Very nicely explained the National Innovation System in India. Dinesh's question is there. Dinesh's question is almost $1 million weight. It's a very heavy, very 2 sentence. What will happen to people in the next 25 years is more important, whether there will be any people at all. Dinesh ji.
No, there will be people, but they'll be unemployed. They will be underemployed. They'll be malnutritioned. They'll be unhealthy.
Okay.
People will be there.
Okay. Then it is good. Okay, I think Professor Nagesh, could you please?
Yeah. Okay.
And there is one hand here. Can I ask? May I ask also Indialics host? What's your name, please? You have raised your hand.
Hari Om, sir.
Please go ahead. I think so that.
Thank you so much, Professor Nagesh, for your inspiring words. And thank you, Professor Joseph, for adding the issue of employment for the Indian economy. So, sir, my question is related to the employment front only. So, following the paper by Viramani, Viramani says that India is following the Leontief paradox. So, being a labor abundant country, India is exporting more high intensive products. And in 2012, if I'm correctly remembering, India started market access initiative. So where if anyone wants to register their product to foreign country, Indian government is giving the reimbursement on the cost that is incurred by the firms to registering their products. So one way we are saying that India is following the Leontief paradox. India is also, becoming the self-reliance economy in a sense that agriculture production is increasing. So wheat production, rice production, everything. So one way we are saying that we are following the Leontief paradox, and the other researchers saying that we are becoming the self-reliance economy. Hence, we are following we are producing whatever needed for labor-intensive production. So I'm not sure about, or I'm really confused if we are saying that we are following Leontief paradox in some direction, and again we are saying that we are self-reliant. So if we are self-reliant, that means we are properly utilizing the labor.
Can you explain what you understand of the Leontief paradox? Because for rest of the people, it may not be very clear.
So sir, Leontief paradox is somewhat if a country is a labor abundant, so it should export labor intensive products.
Yeah.
So Indian economy is labor abundant economy, and India is exporting high technological intensive production. So capital intensive exports is taking place for Indian economy, and we are also saying that we are becoming the self-reliance economy. Hence, we can say that being a labor abundant economy, we are properly utilizing the labor. So these are the two aspects which I'm not able to link. One way we are saying we are exporting capital intensive products, and in other way we are saying that we are self-reliant. So what is the coherence between between these two?
All right. I'll address that. Any others?
I think you may continue.
Okay,
You are referring to Veeramani? You are referring to Veeramani?
Good. Well, thank you very much for your questions and comments. To begin with, Professor Joseph's question about why we could not achieve the success of the same order as Korea or Japan, which were, I mean, at some point, not so much different from India. I think the regions are very well known, and you yourself have done a lot of work on, the innovation systems of other countries. I think some of the administrative or political milieu that were there in the Korea and China have not existed in India. They, in Korea, for instance, I have read a lot of material on how government would dictate companies to have some targets of production this much, export this much, R&D this much, otherwise you are in the jail. And so Samsung leaders and Hyundai leaders, they have been in and out of jail. In India, it is all in the democratic setup. So those achievements were made under lot of pressure, and and they were successful, and national objectives were achieved. So there is one approach. Other is, of course, leaving people to decide what they are comfortable with, give some carrots, and so in the in Korea and China, there was this stick also always present, and it has delivered results. So good for the people, but our system is different. Those kind of enforcements and compliance would not have been possible. So obviously our results are also different. Then our, dualistic societies is another thing. And the kind of devastation we faced in the colonial rule and the kind of economy that we inherited with virtually no industry was decimated. That also is something. And then somewhere we made also a mistake of not paying full attention to primary education. I think higher education was very well done, but primary education should not have been neglected. So that would have given us a workforce which is much more skilled than it is, and it would have helped perhaps to attract greater amount of industry than it did. So there are many factors, and obviously, that doesn't mean that whatever achievements we have made with our limited, effort and all that should be put under the carpet. We should recognize, because this gives the confidence that something can work in the country. I mean, yesterday I was in this keynote in IGIDR. It was about industrial transformation and industrial policy. So I said that industrial policy became a bad word, and import substitution and all that. People started saying they do not work, they do not work. Yes, there were some failures of industrial policy when it was earlier implemented, because we overlooked the importance of competitiveness. So when we opened up these industry which were developed to international competition, they all could not face the competition and had to be closed down. So in the same breath, we say that industrial policy didn't work. But same industrial policy did work for pharmaceuticals. It worked for automobiles. It worked for ICT. It works now. 5 years ago, India imported 80% of their toys. Today, we have become net exporter of the toys. 5 years ago, we imported 100% of mobile phones. Today, in 1 month, we exported mobile phones worth $1 billion. And one would say that this is all shallow assembling. Yes, it is. But there is no country which has built electronics. You have worked on electronics, Joseph, yourself. There is no country which has built electronics from the scratch, from the bottom. you start with assembling and work backwards. So that's how electronics is built everywhere. So now that the volume of assembling activity has expanded, the ecosystem of components will begin to take place, and vertical integration, backward integration will happen, hopefully. So 5 years later, there will be a different story of electronics. So I think industrial policy, if it is well implemented, well targeted, well intentioned, it does deliver. So we should give it a chance and not throw it out of the window. And it is not India which should be looking at. The biggest champions of free trade in the world today are implementing industrial policy with such a big vigor. US has adopted, President Biden has adopted Chips and Science Act, under which $50 billion of subsidies to semiconductor manufacturers are being given. They are implementing domestic content regulations. They are implementing a whole range of industrial policy. So I think there is a greater renewed interest in industrial policy anywhere in the world, and we should not allow this opportunity for India to build a manufacturing sector to be just dismissed at any cost. Now, coming to Ruchi's point, the utility model, what had changed now, I think it was never a bad idea. You see, in the worst case scenario, a utility model will not be used. I mean, if you have very sound, innovations or inventions which will fit the bill for normal patent, you take normal patent. But for all others, informal innovations, incremental innovations, you do need some incentivization, some protection to the inventor who did some effort. So it is something which is required. Large industry will not be a great fan of it, I know. But do you listen to them, or do you listen to the need of the hour? And so I think this is something which we should lobby for, because MSMEs, which will benefit from it, they do not have a voice. And we need to, researchers, opinion makers, we need to give it a voice. I, in fact, wrote an article, op-ed in Hindu some time back in support of this. I have been writing on this since 2003, actually. In EPW, there was a paper on patent system, and there I made a very strong case for utility models. But nobody somehow listens, and and some stronger voices, big mouths, throw water on something which is very useful. So in the worst case scenario, don't use it. I mean, let that legislation be there. That is my humble submission. So Lakhvinder's point about the billionaires and industrial houses, what are they contributing to innovation, and what is coming from them and all that. I think the unit of the agency of innovation would be a firm, whether it is part of large business house or a multinational company or a public sector unit. So I think we need to, what I was saying or arguing is that a enterprise level R&D, enterprise level R&D or innovative rivalry, that needs to be fostered. Doesn't matter if the firm or that company or agency belongs to Adani, Advani, or whichever business house. I think the enterprise level innovation effort needs to be promoted, fostered, and encouraged. So how do we do that? I made a few observations on that, and I hope they can be. And some of them are quite innovative. Some of the business house companies are quite innovative. Tata Motors, for instance, Mahindra Auto, for instance. These are also business house companies. So we can't paint all business houses with the same brush. So wherever the innovation is taking place, encourage them by all means. So, and then your other point about green revolution, and yes, we have enough food grain, but still malnutrition and stunting, and this is something which is a big enigma for India. We have granaries full of wheat and rice, yet our children are suffering. And so this is, I think, a distribution issue. It is not per se a production issue. Production issue we have solved very well, and pay attention to the distribution. And then the midday meal, for instance, is such a sensible intervention. And unfortunately, during the times of lockdown, when schools were closed, the children who were getting a healthy, nutritious midday meal could not even get that. So that was my concern, and I think we need to get this and fix this through community, innovations, community participation, and distribution issue. And I hope some startups find a solution, innovative solution also to address that problem. Now, there was a question by Rashmi Ranjan Mohapatra about driverless cars and circular economy. I think driverless car is an innovation which is being developed for countries that are aging, that do not have working age population, And so for them, it is a great boon. The old people can travel in the driverless car, no driver is needed. But it is not an innovation I would be a great fan of for India, a labor abundant, labor surplus economy. We can do without driverless car. So this is one innovation I would never allow it to come to India. Because then what will happen to millions of these Uber drivers, taxi drivers, drivers who work for us and all that. So the circular economy and other things you mentioned, they are those I would very much endorse, and we need to foster innovation for recycling economy, circular economy, and good for the nature, good for the country. Yes, and Dinesh, I have partly answered your question, what will happen to underemployed? I think driverless cars, please keep them out of the country and, create good jobs, decent jobs. And the other thing is that IR 4.0, there is a lot of concern about the job displacements. But there is also a literature which is showing, and this is very much like the previous three technology revolutions. Technology revolutions are processes of creative destruction, what Schumpeter said. Creative destruction means some jobs are destroyed, new jobs are created. And so, very much, I have read a report recently when I was working on a paper on IR 4.0, which showed that in the net terms, the job losses will be reduced, will be of the order of 1 to 5%, no more than that. But some jobs will be lost, some will be gained. So, in net terms, it will not be a big loss, but many jobs will disappear, many new jobs will appear. So what is needed is to train our workforce, youthful workforce, into things which will be in demand. For instance, our IITs have some 15 or 20 departments of engineering. mechanical engineering, civil engineering, chemical engineering, computer engineering, maths, computing, mathematics, and a few electrical and all that. There is a huge demand for this machine learning, computing, maths, and all that. There is very little demand for chemical, mechanical, and civil engineering. We need to overhaul this system of producing as many graduates of every discipline. We should have 3 times or 4 times more seats in computing and machine learning than in chemical engineering. So, I mean, students who are passing out of those traditional departments are struggling to find a job, while there are many offers for somebody who is passing out with machine learning course. So we need to overhaul our educational system in such a manner that it is rebalanced in favor of newer fields which are in demand, and reduce the concentration or attention to the traditional sunset areas. So last week there was this knowledge forum conference at ISID. There also I was making a point like this, and my friend K. Narayanan from IIT Bombay responded that IIT Bombay has set up a school of machine learning, advanced computing, this and that. But the point is that chemical engineering stays in the same manner as it was. Mechanical engineering stays in the same manner as it was. So the students who are admitted to these disciplines, their future is destroyed. So why not we give them chance to pursue what is demanded, what is in need of the hour. So, and then this even IITs may be changing, but what about NITs and all other engineering schools? So we need to really take a hard look at the engineering education and the entire education system. We should produce graduates which are in demand and short supply, and then we can really make use of our demographic dividend and become the talent capital of the world in this new technological revolution. So then coming to this last question by Hariom, this Leontief paradox, why we are labor intensive, no, labor abundant economy are exporting capital intensive products. I think Hariom, you see, it is not a geo sum type of kind of thing. You see, the labor intensive products are the products which have very small value addition or margins. They are highly competitive, like garments. The shirts sell for $2 a piece. So you don't make so much money. The value addition is in high technology, high knowledge intensive products like Apple computer. You know which company makes most profits in the world? Apple. Next is Cisco. So if you want to really grow, you have to get into the modern industries. And it is not impossible to build comparative advantage in those industries also. Skill is one, factor which gives you the ability to build comparative advantage in those sectors. So many countries around the world, Brazil, for instance, was not like United States, not ahead of the game in technology, but they tried to build aerospace industry. They built this Embraer, plane making company. So investing in that, over time, you build those comparative advantage. Republic of Korea's name was mentioned earlier. This was not a high-tech industry, high-tech country. It built that advantage. China has done that and doing much more, moving up the value chain, because these are the products where you make most of the money. So if you want to limit yourself as a labor abundant economy to only export labor intensive products, you will stay where you were. So it is not, this is the prescription which is given to developing countries by some of the learned people in the West, so that you stay where you were and we export to you high technology products, knowledge intensive products, and you stay confined to making garments and furniture and all other labor intensive products. Don't come near our areas of work. So this is something which is to be listened to and not bothered about. Okay. So I think I have tried to answer most of the questions. But if there are some more, I'm happy to take on.
I think you have answered all the questions in a very nice manner, and uh, uh, the spirit with which you articulated the problem, each of the issues, very impressive. And I mean, about the Leontief paradox kind of thing, you may like to read Edward Leamer a little bit more, so that you know. Okay. Now, if are there any? It's all. I think if on see, Professor Nagesh Kumar is so, kind of. This is the see, now it is 5-5. Just done. Answering is so nicely done. Everything is. So yesterday we went without lunch.
Mhm.
Yesterday there was no lunch because the lunch break was eaten by the session chair and others.
Oh.
So now I was thinking if there is somebody like you could even miss our dinner. Nothing. Prompt timing for 5-5. But now, if there is any pressing problem, if anyone wants to raise any more issues, you are welcome now.
What about the future of Indialics? Who Bala is not there. I don't see him.
Balaji is not there. Oh, okay. He has already said it yesterday. Don't worry.
Then you have to talk about the future of Indialics, Joseph.
No, not you. We are going to collectively talk about it. We are
So
going to
this
collectively talk about
this
it.
is
Don't
a
worry.
good question to the chair himself.
Yeah.
Yes,
There's
Nagesh,
nothing-
KJ should not be left free.
Exactly.
No,
Yes.
no.
Yes.
As I told yesterday, there's nothing going. It's not going to be Globalix
Uh,
by these three
Uh,
organizations.
I think the
Going-
future. I think future lies in Trivandrum, and next year everybody is going there, and we will be in face to face. We will discuss the future of Indialics.
not only that. January, Globalix is coming to India. From January onwards, we will be
Yes.
celebrating it by organizing different Indialix events, Globalix events. Indialix taking the lead in every state.
Right.
Where our idea is to catch up of the states. There are lagging states. We go to them. MB, we already.
I'm going by the program.
Oh, that again, don't worry, because I think
In the program there is a activity called
think
Future of
I
Indialics.
think Ruchi. This is time of Ruchi now, so she is.
That's for Ruchi. I think let's do one thing. Let us first of all ask Ruchi to say formal vote of thanks. Then we'll stay back, and we would like Professor Nagesh Kumar also to stay back in that. That can be a separate 10-15 minutes if you don't mind. Ruchi, I think over to you for properly. I don't think that we can properly thank you because it is so nicely done, and given your rich back file. It's so many because there's hardly any area you have not dabbled in. So so that was coming out of it was actually an extempore thing rather than a kind of coming from your heart. So thank you very much from my side. Now from the formal official thanking, I invite Professor Ruchi.
Thank you so much, Professor Joseph. So, most respected Professor Nagesh Kumar, Professor KJ Joseph, Professor Dinesh Abrol, Professor Lakwinder Singh, the participants who have stayed with us for last 3 days. I think it's an honor and to be here and to actually formally give a vote of thanks to in fact, I think first of all I start with Professor Nagesh Kumar for giving an extremely enriching lecture And I think he has shared the wealth of knowledge about the innovation system, which he has, collected over a period of time. And in 1 hour, we have gained immensely from that lecture. And in the same light, I would like to thank all our speakers, which Professor Lakhvinder has pointed out earlier, including Professor Walter Park, Professor Kyun Lee, Professor Raja Rasaiya, who has given special lecture, Professor KG Joseph. So those special lectures were, I think, something like were most sought on after by the participants, because this is where they enrich themselves and they also get to know where to look forward to, and what to look forward to in terms of when you're searching for research gaps and you're planning to conduct research. So those special lectures, we're most thankful to all our speakers. Then, as we planned our preliminary sessions, we had research presentations from our researchers who are very active, and the most cutting edge research that they have done in the recent times. And the research was not only in terms of research questions, but also in terms of the methodology which they have used, and with the way they have approached the question. I think organizing this plenary session, a special thanks to all the chairs who have conducted those sessions. And essentially, I think this is also a very important learnings for our participants, because once again, they tell them how to go about their research. And so all the chairs, and then we had those technical sessions, all the chairs and the discussant who have actually gone through those papers and given very constructive comments and suggestions to all the participants. And in that light, I think I would like to make the announcement that we will be looking forward to a special issue of innovation and development. So my humble request to all the participants that if you have gained certain comments, you think you can work on them, so you please work on them and revert back to us with those papers. We look forward to that special issue. It would be really exciting to put all our thoughts together and bring it in a formal document, which would be really helpful. So special thanks to all the chairs and the discussant. Again, I think an event like this happened under the patronage of our chair, head of the department, Dr. Nirmala Menon, and under Professor Suhas Joshi, who has been very, very kind to go ahead, give us a go ahead with this particular program. Clearly, as we have moved away from the pandemic, maybe a person in physical conference would have been maybe more maybe better, or I don't know. But I think in the last 3 days we had extremely intense, and the participation also in all the sessions has been very, very encouraging. There have been a lot more interaction, discussions. We have shot over the time. As Professor Joseph mentioned, we missed lunch yesterday. The evening sessions were also quite, went up to after 6. So that clearly, highlights how involved and engaged each one of us were there in the discussions. The questions were very important. And so asking the question and also trying to, give an answer to that, or if not, then what are the possible ways where we can find answers? I think that also we looked into. The MP panel, I would like to have my special thanks for Professor Ahuja, because he organized a galaxy of experts in the area of Madhya Pradesh economy, including Professor Kabadia, Professor D.K. Verma, and Professor Sasodia. And they highlighted a very specific aspects of Madhya Pradesh, whether it was with respect to the agriculture or to the grassroots, governance, and also with respect to the tribal development. So those specific aspects of the regional innovation system were highlighted, and I think we learned a lot from that particular session, and also learned what more to be done in that particular area. And so in the end, from the organization perspective, I would like to have my special thank to Professor Lakhvinder Singh and Professor KG Joseph. They have mentored me. They told me how to go about it, how to organize everything. And I remember I would call Professor Lakhvinder Singh and say, how do I organize this? Whom should I put chair? And, who should be the chair? Who should be the discussant? So he has always been there, always encouraging, always answering.
I didn't say it. I didn't say
And so from the bottom of my heart, in fact, I think working with him was almost like as a learning experience in the organization of the conference. So that itself was very important. I think how do we manage this entire activity? So thank you very much to Professor Singh for his mentorship. And clearly, we have hosted it on a WebEx portal. And that again, because we were running multiple sessions, we had a team of volunteers starting from Horiom, Asha, Ruchita, and Stanzin. So they have been, switching it on, switching them on, also sending reminders to the chairs. And if sometimes, anytime the mail was going to the spam folder, so they were not getting an access. So those background, I would say the behind the curtain management was being done by them. So a very special thanks to them for ensuring that the conduct of the conference also runs very, very smoothly. So with this, I thank also the participants who have been with us for last 3 days. As I started at the beginning, and I told Sir that I'm feeling emotional because you've been so engaged, and clearly there were times when we had our doubts if we will be able to manage this, but we with the blessings and with the good wishes of our mentors and our chairs and our speakers, we managed to reach here today. Again, running over 45 minutes this particular session also. So with this, I thank everybody, and I'm very grateful for the support and the cooperation which has been extended by everybody. So thank you very much.
Ruchi, you and your team did a remarkable job. It was really remarkable job. And of course, I know invisible hand. I think Lakundra's hand is never invisible. It's actually, it should call, Adam Smith has got invisible hand. Lakundra has got visible hand. His hand is so long that it's reaching out to. Okay, so I think both of you and the team did a wonderful job, and we will keep this tempo moving. I think we have a lot to do. That's as Professor Nagesh Kumar rightly said. There is a huge agenda. I think they somehow, as I told my Professor Nagesh Kumar, my challenge for the youngsters was we aimed at manufacturing. We didn't gain. So there is something wrong with our understanding. That is wrong. So you people, your generation, find out you discard all of us, what all we are doing is wrong, and you find out something new. That's a major challenge. But then I also quoted from our Frederick List, you are all rich only to the extent which you can draw from the previous generation. So with respect, you differ with the younger generation. I think our generation, we must guide them in that direction. And we have, I think at least before we all retire in that sense, in 5 years time, we all will be out completely. Before that, we have to make change. 2030 should see that, India is in a better shape, much better shape than we are today. Anyway, so what do we see? Lakindarji, anything, please, from your final word from your side?
I think it's a fine, and we are grateful to everyone for participating, and particularly about this session was very lively, and I'm grateful to
Really
Nagesh to think to host Indialics sometime in future as well.
Yeah. No, let me say this, that it was a pleasure to join my very old friends, Professor Joseph, Professor Lakwinder Singh, and all others, and new friend Ruchi Sharma. She was at ISID last week, so we look forward to collaborating with you and your team. And I'm very happy on this suggestion made by Professor Lakwinder Singh that Global Leaks, India Leaks, be hosting something. We will be delighted to, as we did last week with Knowledge Forum. This innovation and innovative activity of enterprises is a very important agenda of work at ISID, and some of us are actively pursuing that. So it would be a very good and fruitful, enriching experience to host some of your events at ISID. So please feel free to reach out to me when you want something to be done. and I can assure you full support from ISID. And so finally, again, I want to thank you for this opportunity today. I enjoyed really being with you today. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very
Bye-bye.
much. Thank you. Thank you.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay. Ruchi, thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Bye-bye.
Yeah.